and welcome everyone to the RELO Andes webinar. I am Rachel Martin, and I am so glad you are here, whether you are watching us live or you found this on the repeat. This webinar was first broadcast on Thursday, July 15th, 2021. And in case you didn't know, we are here every month on the third Thursday of the month, unless there's a holiday or something. So I hope you will mark your calendar for Thursday, August 19th. And just in case you aren't already, please make sure you're following us on Facebook. This is the RELO Andes Facebook page. It is the best place to find these webinars and information on a lot of other training. So this month, I am so excited to welcome a special guest. This month, I am being joined by another English language specialist with RELO Andes. So I want to welcome to the screen, Delia Dunlap. Delia, are you here?
Hi, I'm here. Hi, everybody. Hi.
How are you doing today, Delia?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. So we're both in the States, but we're broadcasting from pretty different places, aren't we?
Yes, I'm in the Washington, D.C. area, so the capital of the United States. And what about you?
I'm rather confusingly in the other Washington. I'm in Washington State right now, all the way over on the West Coast. So tell me, Delia, what are you going to be talking about today?
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Today we're going to talk about how to add more creativity to the classroom, and it can be especially challenging in online learning. So we're going to share some tricks to really bring our classrooms to life.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree with you. It's been just a little bit harder online. You know, we're trying to get through so many things, but creativity is what really engages the students. So I'm excited for this presentation.
I am very excited. So I just want to say hi to everybody. I see some amazing people from Algeria and from, where else did I see? From Peru. So if everybody wants to write in the chat where you're from, that would be great. Everybody's welcome. I see Paraguay. All right, this is great. Oh, Bolivia, thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here. So I am just really excited to share some ideas, but I want to start by asking you. So what apps do you use in your classroom? So please write your responses in the chat. So what apps, what programs, what things are you using in your classroom right now? And while I'm waiting to get some responses, I'm going to just introduce myself. So I've been teaching for about 20 years. I've taught middle school, high school, adults, university, graduate school. I've worked in Kenya, Benin, Ethiopia, Mauritania, Algeria. And currently, as I mentioned, I'm in the Washington, D.C. area in Silver Spring, Maryland, teaching middle school. And I'm also working with RELO Andes as a specialist, and I'm so honored to be here. So I want to see some ideas. So, okay, I see some great responses. So Paradeck, Padlet, quizzes, Mentimeter, some things I've never heard of. So of course you're teaching me. Goose Chase, awesome. Quizzes. This is great. These are so great. Okay, so today I'm going to share a couple of those. So some of you may have heard of, and some of them maybe you haven't. So this is great. Awesome. Wonderful. Okay. Wow, I love this. Padlet, great. Wonderful. Okay, this is so cool. All right, so let's get started. Question, Rachel?
Oh, I was just going to say, looking here, it looks like Mentimeter and Padlet are probably two of the most common ones. So I've had a peek at your slides. I know you have ones that I'm not seeing here in the chat. So this is kind of exciting. Yeah. Did you see Goose Chase over there? Have you ever used Goose Chase?
I have not. I've heard of it. So as always, as a group of teachers, we'll always teach each other. So let's keep that going throughout the session. I want it to be as interactive as possible. So, awesome. Okay. So first of all, I just wanted to kind of introduce why we're using technology. So many of us are teaching virtually. So everything is through technology. Face-to-face learning is harder to come by these days. It can be really hard for me to think about how to really make meaningful, challenging tasks that are student-centered, that are creative. And so that's why I decided to present on this topic today. There are many free programs for teachers, which is just wonderful. And most importantly, students want to have fun. So if we can make learning fun, I think that's better for everybody, because I like to have fun too. All right, I'm just looking Google Classroom. Great. Okay, wonderful. Okay, let's keep the ideas coming. So today, by the end of the webinar, we will identify ways of using technology to inspire creativity in the classroom. So let's see at the end if I've achieved my objective. All right, the first thing I wanted to share is Capwing. And this is a fun and engaging way for students to express their ideas. Students really like making memes. It's a meme generator app. And students are surprised when I assign this in school, because they don't usually think of memes as something academic. And what I do each year is I have my students make memes that are advice to next year students. Could also do it as a review at the end of a study, or as a team builder, or as an icebreaker. So I think there's lots of different ways we could use it. And so I wanted to ask you, have you ever used memes in your classroom? Do you use memes? I'm just gonna, I'm gonna show you some examples of memes, and then I'm gonna check back and see some responses. All right, so first, Capwing, you can create an account with your email. And so you create an account, and then you're just gonna click new content. And then it just kind of gives you this workspace. You can use their photos here. They have lots of photos that students can use on lots of topics. I always tell students to maybe start with animals, because there's lots of cute or silly or funny animal pictures. And then students can add text easily on top. And so I wanted to show you some examples. So this is my, these are middle school students. So they are 12 or 13. And a lot of my students are English language learners, but not all of my students. So I've been focusing on the students work who are my English language learners, which is about 70% of my students. And they're from all over the world, from over 40 countries each year. So I have an amazing cultural diversity in my classroom, which is my favorite thing. So this is one student's meme. This is advice to next year's students. So the student put a lot of creativity into it, came up with this concept, and it's kind of silly. Obviously, I make my students do some work, so it's okay to, it's kind of brings a humor. Here's another one. These are kind of sweet ones. You can see the student spell my name.
Dog.
Kind of cute. Yeah, and then this is the last one I wanted to share. This is my third example. So, and then in the beginning of the school year, I show my students the memes from last year, and the students really like that. They always report it's one of their favorite things. So back to my question, have you ever used memes in your classroom? And I want to see some of your responses. Okay, good.
There were quite a few people who responded yes, and a few people who said now they want to try them.
I love that. Yeah, so I recommend Capwing. It's free, it's fun, it's very accessible for students. I have all levels of students. Students who don't speak any English, who could still make a meme and still have fun. So it's great. Okay, good. I love this. A lot of students a lot of participants here are talking about using memes with their students, which is great. Okay. All right. So that's just
Delia, just like you mentioned, you have students from all around the world. I want to say a couple shout outs here to Gabriela from Argentina. I think we had, let's see, Nelson in Bolivia, Ruki in Fiji, who says it's 7 a.m. there. So thank you, everyone who's joining. Or if you're joining and watching this on the replay, you can still leave comments. We'll keep checking the comments for a little while.
Yeah, okay. That's wonderful. Great. Okay, this is really exciting. Okay, so memes is my first idea. It's kind of fun, kind of silly. It always kind of takes students by surprise. And if they had their way, I think they would just do memes all day. So, but
wouldn't we all?
All right, so thank you so much. My next idea is Pear Deck, which I think I heard someone mention, which is great. I've been using it a lot this year. So I'm just gonna introduce kind of what it is, and then ask you a question, and then have some examples. So Pear Deck is an interactive slideshow. So I use Google Slides to make it interactive. It can be self-paced where students do it on their own, or it can be teacher-led, kind of like I'm doing now. where the teacher is leading the students through it. So it can be asynchronous or synchronous. Students respond to questions on their devices, and their responses are saved on your slideshow in the Pear Deck app. And there's lots of amazing templates provided, and you can also not use their templates and just adapt your own slides. So how do you make your lessons interactive, particularly for virtual learning? And so just kind of a general question. It can be hard to make a slideshow interactive. So does anybody have any ways that they've found that have been really successful?
Great. So we'll be looking for these responses over here in the chat. We can see them as you type. So Pear Deck is one of the main ways you make your classrooms interactive, Delia?
Yeah, it's one of the main ways. So first you're going to create a Pear Deck account on the app. I use sign in with Google, but it's up to you. And then once you've made your Pear Deck account, then you're going to create a Google Slides or some kind of a thing that you normally would, and then you're going to click Pear Deck for Google Slides add-on, and you might need to add it once, but once you've added it, it's there. And then it's going to give you choices to add questions to your current slides or use one of their templates. So this is one of my favorite templates. It's this blue dot that the students can move around, and students really enjoy doing that. And so then you can decide when you click Start Lesson, then you can decide if you want to make it self-paced or teacher-paced. And these are some examples my students made. So we are learning about ancient Chinese philosophies. And so this is the students drawing. It's the draw feature. It's really fun. They can use colors. They just kind of get a blank template. You could have them draw anything relating to what you're learning. And my students really like drawing. So I've discovered that this year. And if students don't want to draw, they could also write words. So I get a lot of really creative responses. So here's another one, some kind of silly drawings. Here's another one. I just wanted to show you, the student might not spell the word right, but that's okay because I knew exactly what they were trying to say. So they communicated effectively, and I love their picture. This was a different time I had them draw. We were talking about discrimination against Asian American Pacific Islanders, and my student drew this picture, which I thought was really beautiful. I like to live in this world where we're all holding hands and there's a heart over our heads. So, okay, so back to my question. So what do you use to make your lessons more interactive? So I see games. I love that. Yes, I love games. Good. Online portfolios using Canva. I love that. Great. This is great. I love these ideas. Okay. I would love to use
one. I see one over here that says classes get interactive with competitions.
Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah. Competitive games. That can be really fun, like Gimkit or some other ones.
And Ruki's saying games and pictures and songs. Oh, it looks like Pear Deck already has one fan in the audience right there.
Yay. Oh, I was going to mention Kahoot is also very fun and free as well. Okay, wonderful. This is great. Okay, so it sounds like you are all creative, engaging, exciting teachers. So thank you. This is exciting. All right, I'm going to share a next one. This is Flipgrid, and I haven't heard anybody mention it, so maybe it's somewhat new. It's very helpful. You will have students create videos of themselves speaking. And this has been very helpful in online learning because I have 168 students and it's hard to get all of them to practice speaking. So by having them make a Flipgrid, I can hear all of my students and it doesn't take too much time to listen to them and record them during class time. So they can do it, at home later. They can record the video as many times as they want. They can add filters and things to hide their faces if they're shy, or add a frame around it with a rainbow, or express their personalities in a creative way. And so online learning has been really challenging for getting my students to speak. And so how have you been providing your students with opportunities to practice speaking? What have you been doing? It's been a real challenge for me. I have very quiet classes in online learning. So
thankfully, our chat is not quiet today. This is great.
I love that. Okay, so I'm just going to explain a little bit about it, and then I'm going to come back to my question. So first, just like always, create an account with your email. And then once you've created your account, you're going to click Create Topic. They call them topics, so that may be confusing at first. And then you can click this little button, slide it, that will make it so that you can just give them a password. So you don't have to write each student's name, because I have 168 students, so that would be hard for me. In the past, I've had 300 or 600 students, so you can't manually enter each student's name, but you can just make it so you can give the students a password, a link and a password, and then they can easily join. And once the student joins, then you can click record a response. So it's really easy for the students to use. It's really accessible. It's free. It's a great program. So I wanted to make sure I included a speaking app, because I know as language teachers, getting students to speak, to produce words is really important. So let's hear. So board games, debates, discussions, group work, audio activities. I love these. These are great ideas. Lyric training. Oh, I love that. That's really good. Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for all of these great ideas. I heard songs. Wonderful. I love this. Yes, that's one thing that, I think is another good thing that I saw somebody mention is different levels, right? Flipgrid could be for any level. It could be for a beginner, depending on the question you ask. It could be a beginner, could be intermediate, could be advanced, could be any level. I've done Flipgrids as an adult in a workshop. So it can be for adults, it can be for children, it can be for everybody. And that's one thing that I wanted just to mention about Flipgrid is they have kind of a lot of security, which is why you need to enable the password. But it's good, because whenever we're having young people record images of themselves, or even if they choose a black screen and it's their audio, we want to protect their identities and protect their security. So,
and I just saw something in the chat. Someone was saying that their class makes TikTok videos, which sounds awesome for engagement. You can kind of use Flipgrid in the same way, but with these privacy controls that you're talking about. That's the real advantage.
Yeah, because it's not public, so it can just be private. So you can make it, I've done it in class where we watch the videos together, and I've done it in class where only I watch the videos. And students, if they know only I'm watching it, they feel a lot safer. Yeah, so it can be really helpful. I've had students give speeches, and I gave them a choice. You can record on Flipgrid, or you can give your speech live. Can anybody guess which one you think most students chose? To record on Flipgrid or present live in class?
I'm gonna guess more went live. Am I wrong though?
No, it was all Flipgrid. They were, as soon as they realized you can practice multiple times before you upload it, you can put put a smiley face over your face.
See, that's what's so awesome, is because you got your students used to Flipgrid. And, at first, some of my students, because I've used it a lot too, I think they were really intimidated by the word record, which is why I was thinking they might have wanted to go live. But once they know it's fun with like the emojis and the filters, I guess it breaks down that intimidation factor, doesn't it?
Yeah. Once students started seeing other students' recordings, and they were like, oh yeah, I'm doing that. By the end of the class, no students chose to do it live. They all recorded. So it's nice to give students a choice too, and let them choose. All right, we're gonna move on because I have a lot to share. All right, my next one is Google Docs. This is, I'm going kind of basic here, but I want to just show you the way I've been using Google Docs. So I'm specifically talking about using graphic organizers with language frames. So creating a graphic organizer can create structure for students' responses, allow students to add images or drawings or some way present and change the fonts. I have a lot of students who do like unicorn fonts, and they do all these rainbow colors. So students can really express themselves. Some lesson ideas could be create a timeline of your life, learn about a specific job, design your own country, neighborhood, house, writing a letter. And I'm going to show you some examples too. But first, of course, I have a question. I want this to be interactive. So do you have a favorite graphic organizer? I love I'm a graphic organizer fan. So is there a graphic organizer that you really like using? And I'm going to give you a chance to respond, some thinking time, and I'm going to show you some examples. Of course, this one I have a lot of examples because I basically use a graphic organizer every single day in my classroom. I'm pretty wild about them. So I create a Google Doc, and then I share it with students, and they each make their own copy. You could use Google Classroom or Canvas or something, or you could just have a student make a copy and then share it with you, depending on how many students you have. If you have 600 students, that would be insane. But but we're very creative. I know we're good at making things work. So this is an example of an assignment where a student made a timeline about their own life. And the students added these pictures and described the event and wrote a little sentence about it. I thought it was kind of sad, or I don't know, interesting that the student, out of 5 events for their whole life, of course my students are only 12, but the student chose to talk about coronavirus and how it affected their lives, and they added this little picture. Okay, so another example is to draw yourself as blank. And so this was draw yourself as an ancient Mesopotamian. So I just made this little stick figure, and then I asked them questions, and they wrote their answer, and then they added pictures. So this student is answering the question about what kind of clothes they would wear. And so they found these pictures, and they had to do a lot of research to find this, and students had a lot of fun doing it. And next one is ancient Egypt, and the student was choosing a job. So a lot of student choice in the classroom, giving them lots of choices. And the student chose to be a farmer. So they added these pictures, they put the words over it, which I thought was really cool. And they described, I gave them a language frame, and then they answered the question, and they added why they chose to be a farmer. And then the next one is a letter. And in this case, the student was imagining they owned a factory, and they got to choose what kind of factory it was. So the student chose the Duck McDonald's, and the student was explaining why, and the student added this little picture, and yeah, and it was cute. And then the next one is the student designed their dream city, and the student used Google Translate to write it in Greek. And the student drew this little picture, and the student described why it was their favorite, why they chose it, what they're going to have. So those are just some examples. And so I wanted to hear from you. I think I wrote the wrong question. Sorry about that. My question is, do you have a favorite graphic organizer? Favorite graphic organizer. Okay.
So
good.
I'm seeing people who use Canva, and I'm seeing people who like Padlet, which I think the Padlet fans should just hang on a couple of minutes.
Yep.
And I see one here called Lino It. Have you ever used Lino or Lino? Maybe it's Lino It?
No,
I'm going to look that one up myself.
I need to take notes for all these great ideas. Great. And I heard Karima said that graphic organizers is effective for teaching reading skills. Yes, definitely can be great for reading or writing or lots of things. Okay, so I'm going to move on for my next one, which is Google Drawings. This is something I have to admit, I'm just going to admit I was a little bit nervous about it because I'm not very good at drawing with my mouse. And so I was a little bit nervous about assigning students to draw with their mouse. And I'm not an expert. And I did a really bad demonstration for my students, and we all laughed. It was comical. But that just kind of showed them you don't have to be an expert artist to create art, to express your ideas. So this just gives students a blank canvas to express their ideas, whatever it is. They can combine text and images together. Could be used for any content area, any level. Students could create maps, draw yourself as, adding images to poems, stories, etc. So my question is, have you incorporated drawings or art in your class? And I'm gonna give you some thinking time while I show you some examples. This one I have lots of examples for because we did a lot of drawing this year. This was a map of the students' neighborhood. And I was blown away by the students' skill. A lot of my students are creating these on their phones, and I was just really blown away by the students' art. I think it's just genius. So I want to live in this student's neighborhood. This is, instead of the stick figure I showed earlier, the student drew a picture of themselves as an ancient Mesopotamian, which I thought was pretty amazing. The student really blew me away with that one. This is my student talking about ancient Sparta. And so I love how they use the triangles as clothing and just the expressions on their faces and just really express so much information. And then I love how they added words as well. Okay, this one I really love. This is also a student's map of their neighborhood. And there's a park, which I thought was so sweet. And he's swimming, and I love that. And the student communicated effectively and created something beautiful, even if it's maybe not Picasso, maybe it's the next Picasso, you know, so this, watch out world. All right, so this brings me back to I have more art, I forgot. These are created using a program called Cami, but I just wanted to show you, it could be something like the Pear Deck I showed earlier where the student had different tools. So the students really got good at creating digital art this year. They just became artists, which was really an unexpected surprise of online learning. All right, this is a student's map of the Silk Road. Okay, so my question was, have you incorporated drawings or art in your class? And I'd love to hear some ideas. Oh, Pictionary, yes, that's a great idea in an English language classroom. I love that. Interactive boards, yes, great with primary and high school students, absolutely. I love this. Oh, good. Yes, I recommend it. I recommend it. Google Drawings, it's a free program. It's you know, part of the Google Suite. And so I really recommend it. It's really easy. Story maps. Yes, I love story maps. Wow, this is so cool. Live sheets. I am learning from you all. I really need to take notes. This is so great. I love this.
The great news, Delia, is this webinar is saved on Facebook, so you can go back and watch the video and see the comments and take the notes anytime you want to.
I will definitely be doing that because you are amazing educators, which of course I knew you would be. So this is really great. All right,
and I love Zulime's comment over here that they've always done drawing, but not with tech. Because these suggestions you're giving, I think I'm going to use them. They're helping me because, you know, in a classroom, I always give people markers. I don't care if you're 5 years old or 25. I give you markers and ask you to draw, but doing that online seems harder, but not the way you're showing. This looks easy.
Yeah, I mean, some students still drew. I told them they can draw on paper or even write on paper and take a picture of it and send it to me. And that's great. But yeah, these were really great. One thing that I didn't mention yet that I wanted to mention is that I also give my students a challenge. I have a student work wall of glory, which this year was like a slideshow, but I would start each class with my student work wall of glory, and students would try to compete to get in the wall of glory. And I would choose all different levels because I want it to be, you know, everybody can be in my wall of glory. But that was a little extra motivation to make extra amazing poems, stories, whatever, the most creative possible. And it worked. I think this year I had the most creativity I've ever had. And it just makes me want to do more. Okay.
Well, tell us more. I'm looking ahead. I think you have 2 more apps left for us, don't you?
Yes. Time. I'm always running against the clock. Okay.
You have about 10 more minutes. Go for it.
All right. Next one is Google Sites. And this one is students will be creating a Google site. And the students are going to share their learning in an interactive way. It can be public, so that can be kind of exciting for students. They can choose to keep it private or public. It's really fun to add images. The students can embed videos, they can add images, text, they can do all kinds of things. And so I've had students create Google Sites individually or in small groups. And then at the end, we do a gallery walk so that students are learning from other students' Google Sites. So that can be really fun. All right, so have you ever had students create websites, blogs, or Google Sites? You can write your response in the chat, and while you're thinking, I'm gonna show you a few examples. So example work, student 1, so this is about whaling in Japan. The student chose the topic, a lot of student choice in my classroom, and the student shows their opinion on this topic. It's their own opinion. And then the student added these pictures, wrote this text, and kind of made this graphic, this beautiful graphic. The next one is student work 2. So this was about the SDGs, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And you can see these little writing here. I just wanted to show that is the different pages. So you can navigate through it like a regular website with different pages. And the student added these pictures and wrote this text. And the next one is the student did a country profile about the country. The student chose United Kingdom. And so you can see these are different tabs. So there's lots of different ways it can look. There's lots of different formats. The students have a lot of fun with it. And it's also a great skill that they can take in the world. Now my students know how to make Google Sites. So that's really a great life skill, I think. And my students are middle school students. So think about what kind of Google Sites they're going to make in high school, or if in university if they go, or what the future holds. So now I'm just reading your responses, because of course I want to hear from you. And so I want to hear if you've ever used Google Sites, blogs, or websites in your classroom. So great. There's another one called Wix. It doesn't quite have the same, maybe, student privacy. It's really cool though. It's also free, maybe a little bit higher level, not quite as easy as Google Sites. Okay, so I'm just seeing, okay. Yeah, okay, so the idea of a country profile could be fun, or I'm just, great, okay, great. It's just another idea, throwing it out there. All right, my last one, this is gonna be interactive. So I'm gonna ask you to participate in my Padlet. So I heard a lot of you mention Padlet, which is great. I'm glad you know about it. It can be really fun for online, and it is an online collaboration board. It's free, and students can add images and other visual elements. It's easy to add images and text together. It could be a great warm-up, like icebreaker, or it could be a good closing activity at the end of a unit, or anything like that. So this is an example of my Padlet that I made, and I would like you to actually add some more ideas onto this Padlet. It's kind of sad, it only has 3. So let's see how many ideas we can get on the Padlet. So while you are doing that, the link is there. While you're writing on the Padlet, I am going to quickly show you how to do Padlet. Oh, got it. Great. This is the actual Padlet that Rachel's sharing. And so, oh, it's,
there it is.
The link is coming. Okay, great. Wonderful.
So this Padlet is live right now. If you are watching us live, check in the chat here on Facebook. You can click on that and you can write something, add your thoughts here. It looks like Delia has kind of given us a wrap-up question for this webinar. So I'll just read what she has here. How can you inspire creativity in your classroom? Reflect on this webinar. Are there any ideas you can adapt? So please go ahead and click on something, go ahead and write something. But let's see this in use.
Maybe while we give teachers a chance to write, we could go back and I can just share some more ideas, because of course I always have more ideas. And I hear somebody say that Padlet needs payment. You should get, I think, 5 for free. So you can create 5 for free, and then after that, then you're all set. Okay, I want to share some tech tips with you. This is just general, which would be to experiment with the technology before you present it, to create a model or an example to share with students. So if I'm going to assign a Google site, I'm going to make a Google site that's a model, not on a topic students can choose, so they can kind of get an idea. And I often will also make an instructional video that shows them how. I'll have to tell you all about that another day. To create a plan B in case it doesn't work. Technology, one day I remember I arrived in class and Google was just down, like, and my whole lesson was Google based, and I had to have a plan B. So just kind of in your head, think about, what would I do? What would I do if it doesn't work? And to start small. So I wouldn't recommend in one lesson adding all of these elements, because that would just be really a lot. So maybe just start with one, and start small. Make it optional for students, and get comfortable with the technology before you require all students to do it. And another idea that I have is you can make a student choice board where you could, for example, assign a topic, and then students could choose how they want to show their learning. So do they want to make a meme? Do they want to do a self-paced pear deck? Do they want to respond on a Flipgrid? Do they want to complete a Google Doc, or make a Google drawing, or make a Google site? You could only have 4 options. You could have, 3 options. You could have 2, you don't have to have all the options, but that's just a friendly suggestion. And so just to review today, we've talked about Capwing and Pear Deck and Flipgrid and Google Docs and Google Drawings and Google Sites and Padlet. So maybe now we could go to the Padlet and we could see some ideas.
It is starting to fill up here. You can see people are writing. I may use Flipgrid. Maybe I'll teach with music and pictures. Oh, someone wants to do the place I'd like to visit. We can use different digital tools. Oh, this is almost hard to read right now because people are writing. Great job, guys. It's writing as I'm reading, using online portfolios, using Canva. Encourage our learners to be more familiar with some applications. Looks like someone was really listening to those choice boards. Give students a variety of options to present a task or apply a specific language aspect. Great. This Padlet is going to stay open for a few minutes, right, Delia? People can add their ideas after the webinar too?
Yes, I would love that. I love how one participant wrote about choosing a UNESCO heritage site and researching different ones. There's a really cool Padlet template that's a map, and students put pins on it. And I had students do one time, a place they'd like to visit and why. And it was this really beautiful interactive map. There were, pins all over. And I would kind of say, certain regions feeling left out. And they would, student would add a pin there. So it's this really beautiful map of all the places students would like to visit, or if you have students who are from all over the world, like today we could do, where you're from, and that could be a really beautiful community activity and just a way to share common ground, and just, I love that idea. That could be really cool. Wonderful. So so Padlet, there's lots of different templates. So this is just one, and so I love your ideas. You liked memes a lot, so that's great. Flipgrid, good. Okay, well, one thing I wanted to share is that I would love to hear from you in the future. And so if you try something and it works out really well, I would love to hear about it. And I know I'm almost out of time, and that's almost everything I have to share, but I did want to give time if there are any questions. So does anybody have any questions? And you can write your questions in the chat, and I will be so honored to respond.
So can I ask you a question as we're kind of waiting for some of these to come in? Do you usually use all of these in every class, or how many apps do you use in one day?
No, I try not to do too much because it can just be overwhelming. And I like to, for example, Pear Deck. It's really great. My students really like it. But if I do it every day, kind of becomes redundant, kind of like, I want my class to be consistent, have a routine, but I don't want it to be really predictable. I want each day to be something new. So even if I do a Pear Deck each day, different kinds of questions, mix it up. So so I wouldn't recommend doing all of this in one. That would be a bit chaotic. Maybe I always do a graphic organizer, and I wouldn't ask students to draw every day. My students anyways, don't like to do the same thing every day. So I would just mix in different things. Today we're going to practice speaking. Today we're going to practice, reading. Today we're going to do a little writing. And that I found that really, so I would recommend just maybe one or two things each class, depending on how long your class is. But my classes are about 80 minutes, so I don't want to do too much. But I also want to keep things moving. I love the participant who wrote, can we have another presentation like this? Oh, thank you so much.
You might have to come back, my friend.
All right, this is so great.
So there is a question here from Edison asking for which app you were using related to writing.
So writing, I would say the graphic organizer, which is just Google Docs. I know it's kind of the most basic, but I think that's really helpful. I would say I'm trying to think about another. Padlet can be really good because it's fun. It's like it's interactive, but students are writing. One thing, Pear Deck is really good. You can ask lots of different kinds of questions, and students can share their ideas in a different way. There's lots of different templates, and there's lots of different ways. And so that I get a lot of students students who are very shy in class, who don't normally raise their hand, they'll give a great idea and express their ideas in writing in Pear Deck. So Pear Deck can be really helpful. Pear Deck is kind of when I do it live, I can see who's written and who hasn't. And so
Oh.
I can be like, hey, you know, and I did this thing this year. It was a trend where each time a different student responded, I put a sticker on my face. I teach middle school, so they're 12. They really liked that. And I had all my classes, my whole face was covered in stickers. They really wanted to win my sticker challenge. So they won like a movie. We got to watch a movie in class, the class with the most stickers on my face. So that was a really effective way to get every single student to write a response in the slideshow. So that was very fun. All right.
So let me ask one more question I see from Steffi here. Do you use any offline app or tool in your classes? So I guess, is that like asynchronous or something that doesn't take data or good Wi-Fi? I know we struggle with having strong connections sometimes.
So Google Docs could be used offline. Pretty sure Google Drives could be used offline. Pear Deck could be asynchronous, where students do it on their own, but that's not necessarily offline. So in a normal year, I like to have my students practice writing on paper, so I use a lot of photocopies. And that just isn't possible when my students are on a screen. So there's the ways, a lot of my students also don't have a reliable internet connection. And so Google Docs, they can use offline. And then I tell my students they could write and then take a picture of it and send it to me. And that would be fine. I've never had a student succeed in taking me up on that offer. They always end up, they feel pressure, they need to type. And so, yeah, I know it can be very challenging. I have taught, as I mentioned in the beginning, I've lived in Benin and Ethiopia and Mauritania, and I've taught in classrooms where there's no internet in the university where I was teaching, and so all my lessons are offline, right? And that could be a whole separate workshop. So today is all about technology, but I would love to come back, and I have a million ideas for creative teaching without technology. That'll be part 2.
All right. So I see here, let's see, who was this? Nelson asked, how can we contact you? And I think that's a perfect segue to our next slide, actually. If you were interested in this topic, if this is something that you want to talk more about, or maybe share your favorite apps, I don't know if we can bring up that next slide. We would like to invite you to join us tomorrow. So every month we have a RELO Andes webinar, and then one day later we have a discussion group. So if you want to join me tomorrow, 2 p.m. Lima time, 24 hours after our first broadcast, you need to sign up for this on the RELO Andes Facebook page. In about 15 minutes, the link is going to go up. So go sign up there. I'll send you the Zoom link, and then we can chat some more about this tomorrow. So thank you so much for joining us, Delia. You were just a fountain of information there, and our audience, the viewers, have been awesome as well. You guys have been so interactive. I hope to see you back here in August. Does anyone remember what day I need to see you in August? It is the 3rd Thursday, so that is August 19th. Thank you so much, Delia. Hope to see you all back here. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for all your great ideas. Thank you. Have a great day or a great night, depending on where you are. Bye.